What if everything you thought you knew about the Bible was missing the most incredible part? Tonight, I'm going to show you something that will change how you see ancient texts forever. We're diving deep into 10 creatures so powerful, so terrifying, and so absolutely mind-blowing that modern movies can't even come close to capturing their true terror. And here's the kicker. These aren't just fantasy. These are detailed descriptions written by people who claim to see them with their own eyes. But before we begin, I need you to do something. Hit that subscribe button right now. Why? Because what you're about to discover over the next 2 hours will take you on a journey unlike anything you've experienced before. And trust me, you'll want to come back for more content like this. Over 83% of you watching aren't subscribed yet. Let's change that. Click subscribe, and let's explore these ancient mysteries together. Now, here's what makes tonight different from every other biblical creatures video you've seen. We're not rushing through quick facts. We're not showing you cartoon images and moving on. Instead, we're going to walk through these ancient texts like detectives examining evidence. We'll explore what ancient people actually saw, what they wrote down in terrifying detail, and what modern science thinks about these descriptions. Some of these creatures have left traces that archaeologists still argue about today. And I'm going to tell you something that might shock you. Many biblical scholars believe some of these creatures weren't symbolic at all. They were real, physical beings that ancient people encountered. The descriptions are too specific, too detailed, too consistent across multiple texts to be simple metaphors. Think about it. When someone invents a creature, they usually keep it simple. Big monster, scary teeth, the end. But these ancient descriptions, they include details about scale patterns, the sound of breathing, the exact measurements of body parts, even the smell these creatures gave off. That's not how myths work. That's how eyewitness accounts work. So here's what we're going to do tonight. We'll visit each creature in depth. I'll tell you exactly what the ancient texts say. We'll explore what these beings might have really been, and we'll discuss why they matter, not just for history, but for understanding our world today. Some of these creatures lived in water so deep that modern submarines can barely reach those depths. Others flew through skies when humans were still living in tents. A few appeared only in prophetic visions, showing holy men what was coming for humanity. And some, the most terrifying ones, walked among humans, breeding with them, creating hybrid offspring that shouldn't have existed. Each creature reveals something profound about the ancient world, about what our ancestors feared, about what they worshipped, about what they believed was possible in a universe far stranger than ours. As we journey through these accounts, you might feel skeptical. That's okay. You might feel scared. That's natural. You might feel amazed. That's exactly what I'm hoping for. Because whether these creatures were literal or symbolic, physical or spiritual, they've survived thousands of years in human memory for one reason. They speak to something deep in our souls. Before we meet our first creature, let me set the scene. Imagine the world 3,000 years ago. No electricity, no cities with millions of people, no internet connecting everyone. Instead, small communities scattered across vast wilderness. And in that wilderness, in the deep places humans rarely went, Things existed that we've long forgotten. Ancient people didn't have cameras or video to record what they saw. They had words, and they chose those words very, very carefully. When they described a creature's scales as like shields tightly joined, they meant something specific. When they said a beast's tail moved like a cedar tree, they were giving you precise information to understand the size and power they witnessed. These descriptions were passed down generation after generation. Grandparents told parents, parents told children. Eventually, scribes wrote them down, preserving them in texts that have survived wars, fires, floods, and thousands of years of human history. Why? Because people knew these accounts were important. They knew future generations would need to understand that our world once contained, or still contains, mysteries beyond our comprehension. Are you ready to discover what ancient eyes witnessed? Ready to meet beings that made grown warriors fall to their knees in terror? Ready to explore creatures so magnificent that they could only be explained as acts of divine creation? Then take a deep breath, let it out slowly, and prepare yourself. Our first creature is waiting by a quiet river. Something enormous is about to step from the reeds, something called Behemoth. And when you understand what this creature really was, you'll never read ancient texts the same way again. But here's a question to think about as we begin. What if Behemoth isn't extinct? What if it's still out there, in unexplored regions where humans rarely go? Some scientists think that's not as crazy as it sounds. Let's find out why. Chapter 1. Behemoth, the living mountain that shook the earth. Picture a river in ancient Mesopotamia, wide, peaceful, flowing through green valleys. Farmers work the banks. Children play in shallow waters. Everything is normal, just another beautiful day. Then the ground starts to shake. Not violently, like an earthquake, more like rhythmic tremors. Thud, 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 getting stronger, getting closer. Animals scatter, birds explode from trees in panic, and people stop what they're doing, frozen, because they know what's coming. From the thick jungle of reeds and lotus plants, something pushes through. Something so massive that trees bend aside. Something that makes the earth respond to every footstep. Behemoth has arrived. The Book of Job gives us the most detailed description of this creature in all of ancient literature. And here's what's incredible. It's not vague. It's not poetic metaphor. It's a careful, specific account of a living animal. Let me read you the actual words. Behold, Behemoth, which I made as I made you. He eats grass like an ox. Behold, his strength in his loins and his power in the muscles of his belly. He makes his tail stiff like a cedar. The sinews of his thighs are knit together. His bones are tubes of bronze, his limbs like bars of iron. Now let's break that down because every single detail matters. First, he eats grass like an ox. This is a herbivore, a plant eater. Massive, yes. Powerful beyond measure, absolutely. But not a predator. This creature spent its days peacefully grazing, consuming enormous quantities of vegetation. Second, his strength in his loins and his power in the muscles of his belly. The text is describing core strength. Abdominal muscles so powerful they could support tremendous weight. This isn't describing a fat, slow creature. This is describing an animal built like a bodybuilder with muscle structure that allows incredible force. Third, and this is the key detail, he makes his tail stiff like a cedar. A cedar tree. Let that sink in for a moment. Cedar trees in that region grew 30, 40, even 50 feet tall, with trunks several feet thick. When the text says Behemoth's tail was like a cedar, it's not talking about a thin little tail. It's describing an appendage as thick and strong as a tree trunk. An appendage that, when swung, could demolish anything in its path. Now here's where it gets really interesting. What animal fits this description? For centuries, scholars debated. Some said it was an elephant, but elephant tails are thin and wispy, nothing like a cedar. Others suggested a hippopotamus, but hippo tails are small and weak. Neither animal has a tail that could be compared to a massive tree. But there's one creature that fits perfectly, a sauropod dinosaur. I can already hear some of you thinking, wait, dinosaurs? But dinosaurs went extinct millions of years before humans existed. That's what we've been taught. But what if that timeline is wrong? What if some of these massive creatures survived much longer than we thought, living in remote regions, occasionally encountering humans? Think about it. Sauropod dinosaurs like Brachiosaurus or Apatosaurus had tails that were essentially muscular tree trunks. They had bones described perfectly by tubes of bronze, hollow but incredibly strong. Their legs were literally like bars of iron, pillar-like, capable of supporting weights exceeding 50 tons. And here's something that'll blow your mind. Cultures all around the world have dragon legends. Not just Europe, not just Asia, everywhere. Africa, South America, Australia, North America. Every single continent has stories of massive reptilian creatures. What if those weren't myths? What if those were surviving dinosaurs that ancient people encountered? Some researchers point to the Mokele Mbembe, a creature reported in the Congo River basin even today. Local people describe a massive, long-necked animal living in the deepest swamps. They call it the one who stops the flow of rivers. When shown pictures of different animals, they consistently point to sauropod dinosaurs as matching what they've seen. Conspiracy, mass hallucination, or evidence that behemoth-like creatures survived into the human era and maybe, just maybe, still exist in unexplored regions. But let's get back to the biblical description, because there's more. Job continues, "Under the lotus plants he lies, in the shelter of the reeds and in the marsh. The lotus trees cover him with their shade. The willows of the brook surround him." This creature loved water. Despite his enormous size, Behemoth was semi-aquatic, spending time in rivers and marshes, cooling his massive body in the water, finding shade under large plants. Again, this fits perfectly with what we know about sauropod dinosaurs. They were often found near water sources, using water to support their tremendous weight. The text goes further. "Behold, if the river is turbulent, he is not frightened. He is confident though Jordan rushes against his mouth." Confident in raging rivers. Why? Because of his size and weight. A creature weighing 30, 40 or 50 tons doesn't get pushed around by currents. Water that would sweep away humans or even elephants is nothing to Behemoth. He stands firm, immovable, drinking calmly while the river crashes against his chest. Now imagine you're an ancient farmer and you see this creature. The first thing you feel is probably terror. Something that big could crush you accidentally without even noticing. But as you watch Behemoth peacefully eating plants, wading in the river, resting in the shade, you realize something profound. This creature doesn't need to prove anything. It doesn't attack. It doesn't threaten. It simply exists. And that existence commands absolute respect. That's real power. The kind that doesn't need to be aggressive because it's simply undeniable. The text actually addresses this directly. It says, "Can anyone capture him by his eyes or pierce his nose with a snare?" The obvious answer is no. No human technology of that era could capture or control Behemoth. He was beyond human power, a living reminder that creation contained forces we couldn't dominate. And here's a thought-provoking question for you to consider. Why does God specifically point out Behemoth to Job? The whole book of Job is about a man questioning why bad things happen to good people. And God's response is essentially, look at Behemoth, look at Leviathan, look at the vast creation beyond your understanding. You're part of something bigger than your individual suffering. There's a humbling lesson here. We're not the center of the universe. We're not the biggest, strongest, or most important things in creation. And maybe that's okay. Maybe there's peace in accepting that we're small parts of something vast and mysterious. Before we leave Behemoth behind and move to our next creature, I want you to do something. Look in the comments right now and tell me, do you think Behemoth was a real creature? Do you think it was a dinosaur? Or do you think it's symbolic? Let's get a discussion going because this is fascinating stuff. And if you're enjoying this deep dive into ancient mysteries, smash that like button. It helps more people discover these incredible stories. We're building a community of people who aren't afraid to ask hard questions and explore controversial ideas. All right. Behemoth slowly walks back into the reeds, the ground still trembling with each step. But our journey is just beginning, because next, we're diving deep underwater. We're going to the darkest parts of the ocean where pressure crushes everything, where no light penetrates, where something even more terrifying than Behemoth makes its home. They called it the King of the Deep. They called it unkillable. They called it Leviathan. And when you hear what the Bible actually says about this creature, you'll understand why ancient sailors would rather die of thirst on land than risk encountering it at sea. Chapter 2. Leviathan, the fire-breathing terror of the deep. If Behemoth was a gentle giant, Leviathan is his complete opposite. Where Behemoth represented peaceful power, Leviathan represents raw, terrifying, untamable ferocity. This creature is described in more detail than any other in the Bible, an entire chapter of Job dedicated to its fearsome nature. And those descriptions are absolutely nightmarish. Let me start with the most shocking detail, the thing that makes skeptics dismiss this whole account. Leviathan breathed fire. I know what you're thinking. Fire-breathing sea creatures. That's obviously fantasy. Dragons don't exist. But hold on. Let's look at exactly what the text says before we jump to conclusions. Job 41:18-21. His sneezings flash forth light, and his eyes are like the eyelids of the dawn. Out of his mouth go burning torches, sparks of fire leap forth. Out of his nostrils comes forth smoke, as from a boiling pot and burning rushes. His breath kindles coals, and a flame comes forth from his mouth. That's not vague. That's not poetic. That's a detailed eyewitness description of a creature producing fire and smoke from its mouth and nostrils. Now, how is that possible? Here's where modern biology gets interesting. There's actually a beetle alive today, called the bombardier beetle, that does something remarkably similar. When threatened, this tiny beetle mixes chemicals in a special chamber inside its body. The reaction creates a boiling, toxic spray that it shoots at predators. The spray is literally at the boiling point of water, 212 degrees Fahrenheit. If a beetle the size of your fingernail can create boiling chemical reactions, what could a massive sea creature do? What if Leviathan had biological systems that produced flammable gases, hydrogen, methane, phosphine? What if it could expel these gases forcefully and ignite them, creating the fire and smoke ancient people witnessed? Suddenly, the impossible description becomes scientifically plausible. Not easy to explain, but possible. And that should make us reconsider everything we thought we knew about ancient accounts. But the fire breathing is just the beginning. The physical description of Leviathan is equally incredible. His back is made of rows of shields, tightly sealed together. They are so close that no air can pass between. Each is so close to the next that they stick together and cannot be parted. Armor plating, overlapping scales so tight that they form an impenetrable barrier. No weapon of the ancient world could pierce this defense. Swords bounced off, spears shattered, arrows were useless. The text continues. Iron is treated like straw by him, and bronze like rotten wood. The arrow cannot make him flee. Sling stones are like stubble to him. Clubs are regarded as stubble. He laughs at the shaking of the spear. This creature was invulnerable to human weapons, completely untouchable. You could attack Leviathan with everything you had, and it would do absolutely nothing. The text says he laughs at weapons. That anthropomorphization suggests complete disdain for human attempts to harm him. Now, what creature fits this description? Let's piece together the clues. Massive sea creature, check. Armor-plated scales, check. Produces fire or smoke, check. Long, serpent-like body, check. Enormous head with terrible teeth, check. Some scholars suggest Leviathan was a massive crocodile. Crocodiles do have armored scales. They do live in water. They are indeed dangerous. But crocodiles don't produce fire or smoke. They don't live in the deep ocean. And no crocodile has ever been described as having eyes that glow like the dawn, or a wake that makes the deep boil like a pot. Others suggest it might have been a whale. But whales don't have scales. They don't have the teeth described in the text. And they certainly don't breathe fire. The description fits best with something like a massive marine reptile, similar to a mosasaurus or kronosaurus. These were real creatures. We have fossils proving it. They lived in oceans, had enormous jaws filled with terrible teeth, and reached lengths of 50 feet or more. Some species had overlapping scales and bony armor plates. Now here's the controversial question. What if some of these marine reptiles survived much longer than science currently believes? What if they were still alive when humans started sailing the seas? What if Leviathan was a surviving population of these ancient predators, living in the deepest parts of the ocean where humans rarely went? Even today, we're discovering new species in the deep ocean. In 2023 alone, scientists identified over 5,000 new marine species. The ocean is vast, deep, and largely unexplored. Could something as large as Leviathan hide there? Absolutely. Let me read you another section that describes Leviathan's power. When he raises himself up, the mighty are afraid. At the crashing, they are beside themselves. Though the sword reaches him, it does not avail, nor the spear, the dart, or the javelin. When Leviathan surfaces, even the bravest warriors panic. The crashing refers to the sound of this massive creature breaking through the ocean's surface, water cascading off its armor-plated back. Imagine being in a small wooden boat and seeing that. Your mind would struggle to process the sheer size, the obvious danger, the complete helplessness you'd feel. The text asks a series of rhetorical questions that hammer home this creature's dominance. Can you draw out Leviathan with a fishhook? Can you press down his tongue with a cord? Can you put a rope in his nose or pierce his jaw with a hook? Will he make many pleas to you? Will he speak to you soft words? Every answer is obviously no. You cannot capture this creature. You cannot tame it. You cannot negotiate with it. It exists beyond human control, a force of nature incarnate. And here's what I find most fascinating. God specifically uses Leviathan as an example of his creative power. The message to Job is clear. If you can't even understand or control this one creature, how can you question the workings of the entire universe? It's a humbling reminder. We think we're so advanced, so knowledgeable, so in control of our world. But the ocean alone contains mysteries we haven't solved, creatures we haven't discovered, depths we haven't explored. Leviathan represents everything unknown, everything powerful beyond our ability to dominate. Now, before we move on, I need you to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Why? Because we're only 2 creatures into this journey, and it gets even more intense from here. I promise you, the next creature, the 7-headed beast, will challenge everything you thought you knew about biblical prophecy. Subscribe so you don't miss future deep dives like this. Also, drop a comment. Do you think Leviathan was a real creature? What modern sea creature do you think it might have been? Or do you think the fire-breathing proves it was supernatural? Let's discuss. And if this video is blowing your mind so far, hit that like button. We're building something special here, a community that isn't afraid to explore controversial ideas and ask difficult questions. All right, Leviathan descends back into the crushing depths of the ocean, leaving only churning water and the smell of sulfur in the air. But we're not staying in the ocean long, because our next creature makes Leviathan look simple. This thing has 7 heads, 10 horns, crowns, and a body combining the deadliest predators in creation. This is where biblical prophecy meets absolute nightmare fuel. This is the beast from the sea, and according to the book of Revelation, This creature represents something that hasn't fully appeared yet, something coming in our future. Are you ready? Then let's reveal what might be rising from the ocean in the days ahead. Chapter 3: The Seven-Headed Beast. When nightmares rise from the sea. Everything we've discussed so far, Behemoth, Leviathan, those were creatures from the past. Ancient beings that lived, died, and left their marks on human history and memory. But now we shift to prophecy, to visions of the future, to creatures that represent powers not yet fully revealed. And at the center of these apocalyptic visions stands something so bizarre, so impossible looking, that it's haunted artists and theologians for 2,000 years. The beast from the sea, 7 heads, 10 horns, a body combining leopard, bear, and lion. Let me read you the exact description from Revelation 13, 1-2. And I saw a beast rising out of the sea, with 10 horns and 7 heads, with 10 diadems on its horns and blasphemous names on its heads. And the beast that I saw was like a leopard, its feet were like a bear's, and its mouth was like a lion's mouth. Now stop and try to picture that. Actually visualize it. 7 heads, each one complete with eyes, mouth, intelligence. 10 horns jutting from those heads, each crowned with a diadem, a symbol of royal power. A sleek leopard body built for speed and hunting, bare feet designed for crushing and gripping, and a lion's mouth filled with teeth designed to tear and kill. This is horror beyond normal comprehension. Your brain struggles to make sense of it because nothing in nature works like this. 7 heads means 7 brains, 7 sets of eyes, 7 mouths. How does that function? How does it move? How does it hunt? But here's what makes this creature even more disturbing. It's not just a random monster. The text tells us exactly what it represents. Each head symbolizes a kingdom or power structure. Each horn represents a ruler or authority. This beast is political power personified. It's systems of control, oppression, and rebellion against God made flesh. Think about that symbolism. Throughout human history, empires have risen that combine different types of power. Military might, the lion; economic strength, the bear; cultural influence, the leopard. The beast represents all of these fused into one overwhelming system that dominates everything. And those blasphemous names written on its heads, those represent ideologies that oppose divine authority, systems of thought that say, we don't need God, we are our own gods. Human power is ultimate power. We've seen versions of this throughout history. Rome at its peak, claiming its emperors were divine. The Third Reich, declaring a 1,000-year reign through human will alone. Communist regimes claiming to build paradise through human effort, no deity required. But according to Revelation, the ultimate fulfillment of this beast hasn't appeared yet. What we've seen so far are previews, foreshadows. The real thing is still coming. Now here's where it gets controversial, and I want you to pay close attention because this is important. The text says, "And the dragon gave it his power, and his throne, and great authority." The dragon, in Revelation, represents Satan. So this beast isn't operating independently. It's empowered by something darker, something that's been opposing God since before human history began. One of the heads appeared to have a fatal wound, but the wound was healed. And the whole world marveled and followed the beast. People worshipped the dragon who gave authority to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, "Who is like the beast, and who can fight against it?" Think about that. A power so impressive, so seemingly unstoppable, that the entire world follows it. Not through force alone, but through genuine admiration and worship. People look at this system and think, this is it. This is the answer to all our problems. This power can save us. But it's a deception. The beast might promise peace, prosperity, and security, but its true nature is destructive. The text says it was given authority to make war on the saints and to conquer them. It was allowed to exercise authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. Global dominance, complete control. And most terrifying of all, people willingly submit to it. Now let me ask you a controversial question. Could we be seeing the groundwork for this system being laid today? Think about it. We live in an increasingly connected world. Technology allows surveillance and control at levels previously impossible. Economic systems are becoming globalized. Cultural values are being homogenized through media and internet. I'm not saying the beast is here now. The text is clear that certain prophetic events must happen first. But are we moving in that direction? Are the systems being built that could, eventually, give rise to this kind of total control? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you see parallels between modern power structures and this beast? Or do you think this is purely symbolic, representing spiritual rather than political forces? And hey, if this discussion is making you think, hit that like button. This is exactly the kind of deep exploration most channels won't touch. We're going where others fear to go. Now, the beast from the sea is terrifying, but it doesn't work alone. The next creature we'll discuss is its partner, and this one is even more dangerous because you won't recognize it as a threat until it's too late. It looks innocent, gentle, trustworthy, but when it speaks, you'll hear the voice of something ancient and evil. This is the beast from the earth, and it's already among us. Chapter 4. The Lamb with Dragon's Voice. Evil wearing innocence. The most dangerous enemy isn't the one you can see coming. It's the one that looks like a friend. That's what makes our next creature so insidious, so perfectly designed for deception, so absolutely terrifying once you understand what it really is. Revelation 13:11 describes it. Then I saw another beast rising out of the earth. It had 2 horns like a lamb, and it spoke like a dragon. Read that again slowly. 2 horns like a lamb, but it spoke like a dragon. Appearance: innocent, gentle, trustworthy. Voice: destructive, commanding, evil. This is deception in its purest form. This creature has mastered the art of looking harmless while being deadly. And according to biblical prophecy, this is the false prophet, the religious counterpart to the political beast we just discussed. Let's break down why this is so effective and so dangerous. First, the appearance. Lambs symbolize innocence, purity, sacrifice. In Christian theology, Jesus is called the Lamb of God. So when something appears as a lamb, every cultural and religious instinct tells you to trust it. It looks like something holy, something good, something that could never harm you. The 2 horns suggest power, but gentle power, not the 10 crowned horns of the first beast. Just 2 small horns, like you'd see on a young lamb, non-threatening, almost cute. But then it speaks, and the voice is a dragon's voice. Dragons, throughout Revelation and ancient literature, represent chaos, destruction, and Satan himself. A dragon's voice carries authority, but it's corrupted authority. It's the voice of the serpent in Eden saying, "Did God really say?" It's the voice of temptation, of half-truths, of lies wrapped in enough truth to be believable. Now here's what this creature does, and this is where it gets really disturbing. It exercises all the authority of the first beast in its presence and makes the earth and its inhabitants worship the first beast, whose mortal wound was healed. This second beast doesn't need obvious power. It works through persuasion, through religious authority, through appearing to speak truth while actually leading people toward worshipping the wrong thing. It performs great signs. It makes fire come down from heaven in front of people. It deceives those who dwell on earth, telling them to make an image of the first beast. And here's the really creepy part. It's allowed to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image can even speak. Technology, supernatural power, both? The text doesn't clarify, but imagine it. A religious figure who performs miracles, who seems holy and trustworthy, who speaks with authority, but who uses all of that to direct worship toward a political system rather than toward God. We've seen versions of this throughout history. Religious leaders who bless tyrannical governments, spiritual authorities who use their position to manipulate people into supporting evil systems, priests and prophets who looked holy but served corrupt powers. But according to Revelation, the ultimate fulfillment is still coming. The false prophet, who will make the final beast system seem not just acceptable, but necessary, holy, worthy of worship. Here's a thought that should trouble you. How would you recognize this deception? If something looks innocent, performs miracles, speaks with religious authority, and promises peace and security, how do you know it's false? Especially if everyone around you is following it. If your friends, family, and community all believe it's good. The text gives us a clue. It's in the voice. The message might sound good on the surface, but if you listen carefully, there's something wrong. Something that contradicts truth. Something that ultimately leads away from God and toward worship of human systems, human power, human wisdom. Jesus warned about this exact thing. He said false prophets would come performing signs and wonders so convincing that, if possible, even the elect would be deceived. He said they'd come wearing sheep's clothing, but inwardly would be ravenous wolves. The Lamb with the dragon's voice is that warning made flesh. Now, let me ask you directly, do you see evidence of this kind of deception today? Religious leaders who seem holy but support obviously corrupt systems, spiritual teachers who perform impressive feats but whose message ultimately leads away from biblical truth, movements that look innocent but carry dangerous ideologies. Comment below with your thoughts, but be respectful. This is a space for discussion, not attacks. We can disagree and still learn from each other. And if this deep dive into biblical prophecy is opening your eyes to things you haven't considered before, smash that subscribe button. We're building a community of critical thinkers who aren't afraid to question everything and seek real truth. All right, the false prophet stands there in the field, looking gentle and trustworthy, while that dragon voice whispers deceptions to anyone who'll listen. But we need to move on.
Because our next creature is completely different. Not symbolic prophecy, not ancient history. This is plague. This is torment. This is millions of creatures descending from the sky to cause suffering unlike anything the world has ever experienced. This is the locust army of Revelation. And when you understand what they really are, you'll realize this isn't some distant future scenario. This is bio-warfare. This is genetic manipulation. This might be closer than you think. Chapter 5. The Locust Army. When the sky turns black with horror, imagine looking up and realizing the sun is disappearing. Not from clouds, not from an eclipse, from something alive. Revelation 9 describes something so terrifying, so unlike anything in normal nature, that scholars have debated for centuries what John was really seeing in his vision.
Then from the smoke came locusts on the earth, and they were given power like the power of scorpions of the earth. Okay, stop right there. Locusts with scorpion power. Already, we know these aren't normal insects, but it gets so much worse. Revelation 9, 7-10 gives us the full description. In appearance, the locusts were like horses prepared for battle. On their heads were what looked like crowns of gold. Their faces were like human faces, their hair like women's hair, and their teeth like lions' teeth. They had breastplates like breastplates of iron, and the noise of their wings was like the noise of many chariots with horses rushing into battle. They have tails and stings like scorpions, and their power to hurt people for 5 months is in their tails. Let's break down this absolute nightmare. Horse-like bodies, gold crowns, human faces, women's hair, lion teeth, iron armor, scorpion tails, and a sound like thousands of war chariots. Now, the obvious question: what is John actually seeing? Is this symbolic, or is this a literal description of something that will exist in our future? Here's where modern science makes this really interesting. What if John was seeing the result of genetic engineering? What if someone in the future creates biological weapons by combining DNA from multiple species? We're already doing this today. Scientists have created goats that produce spider silk in their milk. They've made mice that glow in the dark using jellyfish genes. They've combined human cells with animal embryos. We have the technology to mix species in ways that nature never intended. So what if, in the future, someone creates weaponized insects? Creatures designed to hurt but not kill. Creatures with scorpion venom, armored bodies, and enough intelligence, the human faces, to target specific populations. The text is very specific. These locusts don't attack vegetation like normal locusts. They're commanded not to harm grass or trees or any green plant. They're only allowed to hurt people who don't have God's seal on their foreheads. That's targeted biological warfare. That's selective plague. And the technology to create something like that is advancing every single year. But here's the most horrifying detail. In those days, people will seek death and will not find it. They will long to die, but death will flee from them. The pain from these stings is so intense, so unbearable, that people want to die to escape it. But they can't. For 5 months, they suffer in agony. 5 months. That's not a quick plague. That's prolonged torment. Now, some of you might be thinking, this is obviously symbolic. These creatures can't be real. But I want you to consider something. When John wrote Revelation around 95 AD, he had no framework for understanding genetic engineering, biological weapons, or advanced technology. He had to describe what he saw using the only references he had: horses, locusts, scorpions, iron armor. If someone from the ancient world saw a modern helicopter, they might describe it as a giant dragonfly with the roar of thunder. If they saw a tank, they might call it an iron beast that devours everything. They'd use familiar terms to describe unfamiliar technology. Could John be doing the same thing? Could he be seeing actual future bioweapons and describing them using ancient terminology? The text tells us these locusts have a king. They have as king over them the angel of the bottomless pit. His name in Hebrew is Abaddon, and in Greek he is called Apollyon. Abaddon, Apollyon. Both names mean destroyer. These creatures aren't random. They're organized, directed, released intentionally to cause specific suffering to specific people. Now here's a question that should make you uncomfortable. If technology continues advancing at current rates, how long before we could actually create something like this? How long before biological weapons become so sophisticated that they can be programmed to attack only certain populations while leaving others untouched? Some researchers say we're already there. That the technology exists right now to create targeted plagues. The only thing stopping it is international law and ethical concerns. But in a future apocalyptic scenario where normal rules break down, what would prevent someone from unleashing this kind of weapon? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you think the Locust Army is symbolic? Or could it be a literal future bioweapon? This is exactly the kind of discussion I love having with you all. And listen, if this content is making you think about prophecy in completely new ways, you need to subscribe. Hit that button right now, because we're going to keep exploring these controversial connections between ancient texts and modern science. Also, destroy that like button. We're at a point in the video where YouTube's algorithm decides whether to promote this to more people or bury it. Your like makes a massive difference. All right, the locust swarm finally moves on, their terrible wing sound fading into the distance. But we're not done with creatures that shouldn't exist. Next, we're traveling back in time, before the flood, before recorded history, to an era when the world was young and something happened that changed humanity forever. Angels came to earth. They did something forbidden, and the result was a race of beings so powerful, so terrifying, that God Himself had to intervene. We're talking about the Nephilim, the giants who walked among men, and the evidence that they really existed is harder to deny than you might think.
Chapter 6. Nephilim Giants, the Titans who walked among men. Genesis 6:4 contains one of the most controversial, most debated, most absolutely mind-blowing verses in the entire Bible. The Nephilim were on the earth in those days, and also afterward, when the sons of God came in to the daughters of man, and they bore children to them. These were the mighty men who were of old, the men of renown. Let's unpack that, because every single word raises massive questions. First, the Nephilim were on earth, past tense. They existed. They were real. This isn't metaphor or poetry. This is historical record. Second, the sons of God came into the daughters of man. Who are the sons of God? This phrase, in Hebrew, Bene Elohim, appears multiple times in the Old Testament, and in every other instance, it refers to angels, angelic beings, not humans. So the text is saying angels mated with human women, and the offspring were the Nephilim. Third, these Nephilim were mighty men and men of renown, warriors, giants, beings so impressive that their fame spread across the ancient world. Now, most modern churches shy away from this interpretation because it raises uncomfortable questions. Angels breeding with humans? That sounds like mythology, not theology. So they propose alternative explanations. Maybe sons of God means descendants of Seth, and daughters of man means descendants of Cain. Maybe it's just talking about godly men marrying ungodly women. But that interpretation creates problems. If that's all it is, why mention it right before the flood? Why describe their offspring as mighty men and giants? Why does the text use language that clearly indicates something unusual happened? The Book of Enoch, an ancient text that wasn't included in the biblical canon, but was quoted by early Christians and even referenced in the Book of Jude, goes into much more detail. It describes 200 angels who descended to Mount Hermon, took an oath together, and deliberately chose to mate with human women. The offspring were giants, not just tall people, actual giants. Enoch says they grew to be 300 cubits tall. Now, that measurement is probably exaggerated or corrupted through transmission, but the point stands. These beings were massive beyond normal human scale. And here's where it gets really dark. These giants became violent. They consumed all the food that humans produced. Then, they started consuming humans themselves. They became cannibalistic predators, treating humanity as livestock. This is why God sent the flood, not just because humans were sinful, but because the genetic line of humanity had been corrupted. Genesis 6:9 makes a point of saying Noah was perfect in his generations, meaning his genetic line was pure, uncontaminated by Nephilim DNA. Now, you might think this is just ancient mythology, but here's where it gets interesting. Cultures all around the world have nearly identical stories. Greek mythology talks about titans, giants born from gods mating with humans. Norse mythology describes the Jotnar, giant beings who interacted with gods and humans. Hindu texts mention the deities, giant warriors born from divine beings. Native American legends speak of giant cannibals who terrorized ancient peoples. Every culture, every continent.
all describing the same thing: giants born from divine beings mixing with humans, leading to violence and destruction, eventually being wiped out by divine judgment through flood. That's not coincidence. That's collective memory of real events. And we have physical evidence. Massive skeletal remains have been discovered throughout history. In the 1800s and early 1900s, newspapers frequently reported findings of giant skeletons, 7, 8, 9 feet tall, sometimes even larger. Many of these were reportedly sent to the Smithsonian Institution and then disappeared. Why? Some researchers suggest a cover-up. That mainstream science doesn't want to acknowledge evidence that contradicts evolutionary timelines and suggests the biblical account might be accurate. But you can still find evidence. Ancient megalithic structures built with stones weighing hundreds of tons, moved and placed with precision, we can barely match today, even with modern equipment. How? Some researchers believe giants built them, beings with strength far beyond normal humans. The Bible continues to mention giants after the flood: the Anakim, the Rephaim, the Emim, all described as giant clans that survived in various regions. Goliath, the most famous, stood over 9 feet tall and came from a family of giants. 2 Samuel describes a giant with 6 fingers on each hand and 6 toes on each foot. Genetic abnormalities that suggest these beings weren't quite fully human. They were different, hybrid, something that shouldn't exist according to natural order. Now here's the controversial question: could Nephilim genetics still exist today? Could there be people alive right now carrying traces of this ancient corruption? Some conspiracy theorists believe elite bloodlines intentionally preserve this genetics, believing it gives them superior abilities and longer lifespans. Others think the trait is dormant in random populations, occasionally expressing itself in individuals of unusual height or strength. I'm not saying I believe that, but it's worth considering. If Nephilim existed before the flood and giants continued to appear after the flood, what happened to that genetic line? Did it completely disappear, or does it persist in some form? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Do you believe the Nephilim were real? Do you think giants actually existed? And do you think traces of their genetics might still be around today? If this deep dive into controversial biblical history is blowing your mind, subscribe right now. We're going places most Christian channels won't dare to go. We're asking the hard questions and exploring the evidence honestly. All right, the giants have faded into history, leaving only massive ruins and controversial legends behind. But our journey continues. From beings that were partially angelic, we're going to creatures that are fully angelic, pure, holy, terrifying in their absolute otherness. These are the cherubim, and I promise you, they look nothing like the cute baby angels you've seen in artwork. When you see what the Bible actually describes, you'll understand why every person who encountered them fell on their face in terror. Chapter 7. The Cherubim, angels of fire with 4 faces. If I showed you a typical painting of an angel, you'd see a beautiful human with white robes, maybe some feathered wings, a peaceful expression, calm, comforting, gentle. Now let me show you what the Bible actually describes, and you'll realize those paintings are completely wrong.
Ezekiel 1:5-11 gives us the most detailed description of cherubim in Scripture. And from the midst of it came the likeness of 4 living creatures, and this was their appearance. They had a human likeness, but each had 4 faces, and each of them had 4 wings. Their legs were straight, and the soles of their feet were like the sole of a calf's foot, and they sparkled like burnished bronze. Stop there. 4 faces, 4 wings, legs like bronze. Already, we're far from the cute angel image. But it continues. Under their wings, on their 4 sides, they had human hands, and the 4 had their faces and their wings thus. Their wings touched one another. Each one of them went straight forward, without turning as they went. 4 faces. The text specifies which faces. As for the likeness of their faces, each had a human face, the face of a lion on the right side, the face of an ox on the left side, and the face of an eagle. Visualize that. A being with 4 faces, each pointing in a different direction. Human, lion, ox, eagle. 4 perspectives, 4 aspects of creation, all seeing. Nothing escapes their notice. These aren't gentle creatures. These are guardians, protectors of divine holiness, and they're described with flames and lightning. As for the likeness of the living creatures, their appearance was like burning coals of fire, like the appearance of torches moving to and fro among the living creatures. And the fire was bright, and out of the fire went forth lightning, and the living creatures darted to and fro like the appearance of a flash of lightning. Living fire, moving at the speed of light, appearing here, then instantly there. No transition, no warning, just pure, overwhelming presence. And then there are the wheels. Oh, the wheels are nightmare fuel. Now, as I looked at the living creatures, I saw a wheel on the earth beside the living creatures, one for each of the 4 of them. As for the appearance of the wheels and their construction, their appearance was like the gleaming of beryl, and the 4 had the same likeness, their appearance and construction being, as it were, a wheel within a wheel. Wheels within wheels. And here's the part that makes it truly alien. And their rims were tall and awesome, and the rims of all 4 were full of eyes all around. Eyes, covering the wheels, watching, always watching, all-seeing mechanical organic hybrid beings that move with the cherubim, seeing everything, knowing everything. This isn't comforting. This is terrifying. This is reality, so far beyond human comprehension that our minds struggle to process it. And this is what guards the throne of God. This is what protects the Holy of Holies. This is what was placed at the entrance to Eden with the flaming sword to prevent humans from returning. When Isaiah saw the throne room of God, he saw similar beings, seraphim, 6-winged creatures calling out, "Holy, holy, holy," continuously. And Isaiah's response, "Woe is me, for I am lost, for I am a man of unclean lips." Terror, absolute recognition of his own inadequacy in the presence of such holiness. This is what angels really are. Not cute helpers, not gentle guardians whispering encouragement, but terrifying beings of fire and eyes and incomprehensible geometry, so overwhelmingly holy
that their mere presence would destroy you if you weren't protected. This is why, throughout the Bible, when angels appear to humans, their first words are almost always, "Do not be afraid." Because the natural human response to seeing an actual angel is absolute terror. We've sanitized angels in modern culture, turned them into friendly spirit guides and comforting presences. But the biblical reality is that angels are dangerous, holy, utterly other. Beings who exist so close to the presence of God that some of that terrible glory reflects from them. The cherubim teach us something crucial. Holiness isn't safe. God isn't a cosmic grandfather giving out hugs. The divine reality is powerful beyond measure, and approaching it without proper reverence is deadly. Those who encountered cherubim understood this immediately. Their response was always prostration, falling face down, unable to stand in the presence of such overwhelming otherness. Now drop a comment. Does this description of angels change how you think about spiritual beings? Does it make you reconsider what heavenly really means? Let's discuss. And if you're realizing that almost everything you learned about angels was wrong, subscribe. We're going to keep exploring what the Bible actually says versus what popular culture has taught us. The truth is far more interesting and far more terrifying than the sanitized versions. All right, the cherubim ascend back to the throne room, their wheels full of eyes spinning, their four faces watching even as they leave. But we're not done with powerful creatures yet. Next, we're encountering something that represents chaos itself. Pure, destructive, untamable chaos made flesh. We're talking about biblical dragons. And no, these aren't friendly Tolkien dragons or misunderstood creatures. These are serpents of destruction, symbols of everything that opposes divine order. And the descriptions will make you reconsider every dragon legend you've ever heard. Chapter 8. Dragons of Chaos. Ancient serpents that breathed destruction. The serpent in Eden was just the beginning. Throughout Scripture, serpents and dragons appear as symbols of chaos, rebellion, and destructive power. But were they only symbols? Or did they represent real creatures that ancient people encountered? Let's start with the Hebrew word tannin. It appears throughout the Old Testament and gets translated variously as dragon, serpent, sea monster, or jackal, depending on the translator's assumptions. But the root meaning is clear: a large, dangerous, reptilian creature. Isaiah 27:1 says, "In that day, the Lord with his hard and great and strong sword will punish Leviathan the fleeing serpent, Leviathan the twisting serpent, and he will slay the dragon that is in the sea." Leviathan again. But here specifically called a dragon, a serpent, a sea creature that twists and flees, and something that God himself will have to personally destroy because nothing else can. Ezekiel 29:3 describes Pharaoh using dragon imagery. "Behold, I am against you, Pharaoh king of Egypt, the great dragon that lies in the midst of his streams." Dragons were real enough in the ancient mind to use them as comparisons for human rulers. They represented ultimate power, untamable force, chaos incarnate. But the most detailed dragon description comes in Revelation 12, And another sign appeared in heaven. Behold, a great red dragon, with 7 heads and 10 horns, and on his heads 7 diadems. His tail swept down 1/3 of the stars of heaven and cast them to the earth. 7 heads, like the beast from the sea, 10 horns, again like the beast. This dragon is massive enough that its tail can sweep stars from the sky. Whether that's literal or symbolic, it represents cosmic scale power. The text continues, "And the dragon stood before the woman who was about to give birth, so that when she bore her child, he might devour it." This dragon, identified explicitly as that ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, seeks to destroy from the moment of birth. It's predatory, malicious, actively opposing God's plans. Then war breaks out. Now war arose in heaven, Michael and his angels fighting against the dragon, and the dragon and his angels fought back, but he was defeated, and there was no longer any place for them in heaven. And the great dragon was thrown down, that ancient serpent, who is called the devil and Satan, the deceiver of the whole world. He was thrown down to the earth, and his angels were thrown down with him. This is rebellion. This is the original sin. Angelic beings, led by a dragon-serpent creature, attempting to overthrow divine authority and being cast down. But here's the question: is this purely spiritual symbolism, or does the dragon have a physical form? Throughout history, every culture has dragon legends. Europe, Asia, Africa, Americas, Australia, everywhere. Dragons are universal, and the descriptions, while varying in detail, share common features: reptilian, large, often winged, often breathing fire or poison, always dangerous. China has detailed dragon mythology going back thousands of years. But Chinese dragons aren't evil. They're powerful forces of nature, associated with water and weather. European dragons are typically malevolent, hoarding treasure, attacking villages. Middle Eastern dragons guard sacred places or represent chaos waters. What if all these legends stem from real creatures? What if ancient humans encountered large reptiles, surviving dinosaurs, massive crocodiles, giant monitor lizards, and those encounters became the foundation for dragon mythology? There's evidence this happened. The Vietnamese Javan rhino was unknown to Western science until 1988. The coelacanth fish, thought extinct for 66 million years, was discovered alive in 1938. Mountain gorillas weren't confirmed to exist until 1902. Giant squids were considered sailors' myths until a dead one washed ashore in 1853. Large, unknown creatures exist. History proves this repeatedly. So why not dragons? Some researchers point to ancient artwork depicting humans fighting or living alongside dinosaur-like creatures. The Ica stones in Peru show carved images of humans with sauropods and theropods. Ancient Cambodian temples have clear stegosaurus carvings. Medieval manuscripts illustrate dragons that look remarkably like pterosaurs. Hoaxes, misidentifications, or evidence that dragon-like reptiles survived much longer than mainstream science admits. The Bible seems to treat them as real. Job 41 describes Leviathan in such detail, the scales, the breath, the power, that it's hard to read as pure symbolism. Isaiah prophesies about God slaying the dragon. Revelation describes warfare against a dragon. Real or symbolic, dragons represent something important: chaos, the untamed, the rebellious, everything that opposes order and peace. And here's something to consider. Even if the physical creatures are extinct, the spiritual reality they represent is very much alive. The ancient serpent who deceived Eve is still operating, still bringing chaos, still opposing God's kingdom. When you understand dragons as symbols of this ongoing spiritual warfare, their importance becomes clear. They remind us that we're in a battle, that chaos threatens order, that rebellion against God is a real, active force in the world. But they also remind us of something hopeful. Dragons can be defeated. Leviathan will be slain. The great red dragon will be thrown down. Evil is powerful, but it's not ultimate. Drop your thoughts. Do you think dragons were real creatures, or purely symbolic? And does the answer even matter if the spiritual truth they represent is real? Let's discuss. If this exploration of biblical creatures is opening your eyes to connections you never saw before, subscribe now. We're building a community that thinks deeply, questions boldly, and seeks truth wherever it leads. One more creature to go. And this one is unique because it's not a single being, but 4 beasts representing the entire sweep of human empire. These are Daniel's 4 beasts. And when you understand what they represent, you'll see all of human history in a new light. Chapter 9. Daniel's 4 beasts, kingdoms that ruled and fell. Daniel chapter 7 records one of the most important prophetic visions in Scripture. Daniel sees 4 beasts rising from a churning sea, each representing a kingdom that would dominate the ancient world. And the details are specific enough that we can identify them with remarkable accuracy. First beast, behold, a lion with eagle's wings. And as I looked, its wings were plucked off, and it was lifted up from the ground and made to stand on 2 feet like a man, and the mind of a man was given to it. A lion with eagle wings represents power and speed. This is Babylon under Nebuchadnezzar, a kingdom that conquered swiftly and ruled absolutely. But the wings being plucked represents humbling. Nebuchadnezzar literally lost his mind for 7 years, living like an animal before being restored. The lion became a man. The beast became civilized. Second beast, and behold, another beast, a second one, like a bear. It was raised up on one side. It had 3 ribs in its mouth between its teeth, and it was told, "Arise, devour much flesh." A lopsided bear consuming everything. This is the Medo-Persian Empire. The Medes and Persians were never equal partners. Persia dominated, thus the raised up on one side. The 3 ribs represent the 3 major kingdoms they conquered: Lydia, Babylon, and Egypt. And they devoured much flesh. The Persian Empire eventually controlled the largest land area of any empire to that point in history. Third beast. After this I looked, and behold, another, like a leopard, with 4 wings of a bird on its back,
and the beast had 4 heads, and dominion was given to it. A leopard with 4 wings and 4 heads, speed and division. This is Greece under Alexander the Great, who conquered the known world faster than any military commander before or since, completing his conquest in just 10 years. The 4 heads represent the 4 kingdoms that divided Alexander's empire after his death. Cassander, Lysimachus, Seleucus, and Ptolemy each took portions. The prophecy written 300 years before Alexander was born, accurately predicting not just his rapid conquest, but the 4-way division that followed. That's not lucky guessing. That's genuine prophecy. 4th beast. After this I saw in the night visions, and behold, a 4th beast, terrifying and dreadful and exceedingly strong. It had great iron teeth. It devoured and broke in pieces and stamped what was left with its feet. It was different from all the beasts that were before it, and it had 10 horns. This beast is different, unnatural, unlike any animal, and it's described with iron, the same metal that represents Rome in Daniel's earlier vision of the statue. Rome didn't just conquer like previous empires. It destroyed, it assimilated, it transformed conquered peoples into Romans. It built roads, established law, spread language and culture so effectively that even today, 1,500 years after Rome fell, we still use Roman legal concepts, speak Romance languages, and build with Roman architectural principles. The 10 horns represent divisions or rulers within this 4th kingdom. And then something strange happens. I considered the horns, and behold, there came up among them another horn, a little one, before which 3 of the first horns were plucked up by the roots. And behold, in this horn were eyes like the eyes of a man, and a mouth speaking great things. A little horn that uproots 3 others and speaks arrogantly. This has been interpreted many ways. Some see it as a specific Roman emperor. Others see it as a future leader who will arise from a revived Roman Empire, the Antichrist figure described in Revelation. But here's what's undeniable. Daniel's vision accurately predicted the succession of empires that would dominate the Mediterranean world. Written around 550 BC, it foretold Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome centuries before they rose to power. That's either the most incredible coincidence in literary history, or it's genuine prophecy. And if it's genuine prophecy, then the rest of the vision, the parts that haven't been fulfilled yet, deserve our serious attention. Because Daniel doesn't just see beasts, he sees beyond them. As I looked, thrones were placed, and the Ancient of Days took his seat. His clothing was white as snow, and the hair of his head like pure wool. His throne was fiery flames. Its wheels were burning fire. God on his throne, judging the kingdoms. And then I saw in the night visions, and behold, with the clouds of heaven there came one like a son of man, and he came to the Ancient of Days, and was presented before him. And to him was given dominion and glory and a kingdom, that all peoples, nations, and languages should serve him. His dominion is an everlasting dominion, which shall not pass away, and his kingdom one that shall not be destroyed. After all the beast kingdoms, Babylon, Persia, Greece, Rome, comes a different kingdom. not a beast, but a human figure, not temporary, but eternal, not destructive, but restorative. This is Jesus Christ, the Son of Man, who receives an everlasting kingdom. And unlike the beast kingdoms that rise and fall, his kingdom will never end. That's the message of the four beasts. Yes, powerful empires will rise. Yes, they'll seem unstoppable, but they're all temporary. They're all beasts, operating on power, fear, and control. But the final kingdom will be different. Human, not beastly. Eternal, not temporary. Based on righteousness, not might. And we're living in the aftermath of that prophecy. Rome fell, but the kingdom of Christ continues to spread, person by person, heart by heart, across every nation on earth. Drop a comment. Does understanding these prophecies change how you see current world events? Do you see modern kingdoms as continuations of these ancient beast kingdoms? Let's discuss. And if this deep dive through biblical creatures and prophecy has been valuable to you, 3 things. 1. Subscribe. We're going to continue exploring scripture in ways that challenge assumptions and reveal deeper truths. 2. Like this video. It genuinely helps more people discover this content. 3. Share with someone who needs to see this. These aren't just ancient stories, they're messages for today. All right, the 4 beasts descend back into the churning sea. Their time of dominance finished, and we've reached the end of our journey through these incredible creatures. Closing, the mystery continues. We've traveled through thousands of years tonight, from the quiet riverbanks where Behemoth grazed peacefully, to the crushing depths where Leviathan breathes fire, from the apocalyptic sea where multi-headed beasts rise, to the deceptive fields where lambs speak with dragon voices. From the darkened skies filled with locust armies, to the ancient world where giants walked among men. From the throne room where cherubim guard divine holiness with 4 faces and wheels of eyes, to the chaotic seas where dragons represent rebellion, to the prophetic vision where kingdoms rise and fall like beasts from the deep. 10 creatures, each one revealing something profound about power, creation, judgment, deception, holiness, or prophecy. But here's what I want you to understand as we close. These aren't just ancient stories. These are messages for us today. Behemoth teaches us that true strength doesn't need to prove itself. It simply exists, confident and peaceful. Leviathan reminds us that nature contains forces beyond our control. That humility in the face of creation is wisdom. The 7-headed beast warns us about political and religious systems that demand ultimate loyalty, that look impressive but lead to destruction. The false prophet shows us that the most dangerous deception wears the face of innocence, that we must test everything, even things that look holy. The locust army reveals that judgment can come from unexpected sources, that technology and biology can be weaponized, that 5 months of torment awaits those who rebel. The Nephilim prove that boundaries exist for a reason, that mixing what should remain separate leads to corruption and violence, that giants once walked the earth and their memory persists. The cherubim demonstrate that holiness is terrifying, that approaching God requires reverence,
that angels aren't cute helpers, but fearsome guardians of divine glory. The dragons symbolize chaos and rebellion, the ongoing spiritual warfare between order and destruction, the serpent that still operates today. Daniel's 4 beasts show us that empires rise and fall, that no human kingdom lasts forever, but that a different kingdom, Christ's kingdom, will endure eternally. So what do you do with all this information? First, recognize that the Bible is stranger, deeper, and more mysterious than most churches acknowledge. These creatures aren't Sunday school material. They're profound, troubling, and absolutely fascinating. Second, understand that prophecy isn't just about the future. It's about understanding patterns in history, about recognizing when beast-like kingdoms rise, about discerning truth from deception. Third, stay curious. Keep asking questions. Keep exploring. The moment you think you've figured everything out is the moment you stop learning. I want to thank you for taking this journey with me. If you made it this far, over 2 hours of deep exploration, you're exactly the kind of person I'm creating content for. Someone who isn't satisfied with surface-level answers. Someone who wants to dig deeper, think harder, and discover truth. So here's what I need you to do. Subscribe to this channel if you haven't already. We're building a community of critical thinkers, truth seekers, and people who aren't afraid to explore controversial topics. Like this video. It genuinely helps the algorithm show this to more people who need to see it. Comment below with your thoughts. Which creature fascinated you most? Which one troubled you? What questions do you still have? Let's keep the discussion going. Share this with someone. Maybe a friend who loves biblical prophecy. Maybe someone who's never considered that the Bible contains descriptions this detailed and strange. This content is meant to be shared. And finally, check out the other deep dives on this channel. We're going places most Christian content creators won't go. We're asking hard questions and exploring honest answers. The ancient mysteries aren't solved. They're still here, still relevant, still calling us to dig deeper and understand more. Until next time, stay curious, stay faithful, and remember, the world is far stranger and more wonderful than we usually acknowledge. God bless, and I'll see you in the next deep dive.